Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to invite Robert Vicino, the founder and president of the Vivos Group, a global underground shelter network. And the reason I've invited him to the show is that I feel that with so many prophecies out there in the Bible, with the Hopis, with Nostradamus, with Fatima, with the kind of earth changes that we are experiencing all over the world, the potential of a pole shift, of electromagnetic pulse energy, nuclear war, perhaps our paradigm about safety, about shelter, about housing could expand and open up. Real estate is now being developed commercially, but it has been developed underground for over 50 years in deep underground military bases. We're going to invite Robert to talk to us about the work that he's doing, the challenges they have, and why this underground global shelter network is so important. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Robert Vicino to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning.
Good morning, Kim. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. When you first go to your website, terravivos.com, it really does look like it's something to be afraid of, and it does look a little bit like we better start preparing now. What is it that led you to start this underground shelter global network?
Well, let me respond to you, the first part of your comment there, of it looks like something to be afraid of. You know, we took a great deal of care with this website, not to fear-monger or to foster fear, but really just to present the facts that are already out there and to do it as graphically and as explicitly as possible without adding any fluff to it, because we certainly don't want to be accused of fanning the flames of fear, which unfortunately are already out there. We're not creating the fear. I don't know if the media is doing it or just the circumstances that we now face in the world, and or things as old as the Bible. But for whatever reason, people are very concerned right now. What caused me to proceed with this project is just that the time is right. And I've sensed since 1980, when I first envisioned the project, or I had I had an inspiration to build a shelter underground for 1,000 people. And what's interesting is that I wasn't a religious person. I had no knowledge of Nostradamus or the Mayans or anything at the time. But somehow I got this inspiration. And I was in a totally different business. I was in the advertising business. And it was a strong determination, which caused me to start looking around for an underground mine, like an abandoned gold or silver mine or cave that could be converted. And I quickly realized that is not feasible unless you're the U.S. government with an awful lot of money to convert and reinforce one of those structures. So anyways, over the last 30 years, I've transitioned from that original vision to what we're now doing, which is we're building them. And I really didn't get this into gear until about 3 years ago. And I don't know, maybe Mr. Obama had something to do with that. But
what do you mean? What do you mean? Explain it.
Well, it seemed that as soon as he got in, the fear factor went up. I know my own personal did, and my sense of what I was reading around the world was that there is a great deal of concern because now, they're concerned about our leadership, they're concerned about our political position in the world. But of course, he didn't create 9/11, and that was already out there. I kind of chuckle at people that think that what I'm doing is unnecessary and even crazy because the quote Cold War is over, and they think that that's it. That was the only reason that anybody would ever need to go to shelter, and that shelter should exist was because of the so-called Cold War. But today, I don't know. The Cold War is over, but the Holy War isn't. And Mother Nature could care less whether it was a Cold War or not, that, when she creates the next earthquake, tsunami, or the cosmos send us that mega asteroid, of which they're out there and just last year, there was 2 large asteroids that passed the Earth within the distance of our satellites, which means they were very close calls. Any one of the 2, had they hit Washington or New York, would have devastated it and would have been equivalent to a 25 or 50 kiloton nuclear device. And so the stuff's out there, and we don't even know where it's at. They didn't spot and see those 2 asteroids until 9 hours and 12 hours, respectively, before they passed. So, there's things that are way beyond our control, and really nobody knows when and if something's going to happen. And so what Vivos is all about is we're building for not 2012, or let me even back up, not 2010, 11, 12, or 2029 when the big asteroid is due to make a very close call on us. That's the one called Apophis, which is about 1,200 feet in diameter. It's an Earth killer. But we're building for whenever we need shelter. It's kind of like you buy a fire extinguisher and you have it in your home or your office, not because you expect the fire to start on Friday, but because, you just never know. And it's a good thing to have, and you hope you never have to use it, but if you do, it's, you don't want to have to be running down to Home Depot to buy a fire extinguisher after the house is caught on fire. And so that's the same thing with Vivos. We're selling a form of life assurance, which means the assurance that you will survive most of these predictable catastrophes because you'll have a solution and a place to go given enough notice. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, that's okay. I'll tell you, several months back, I interviewed some experts in the area of EMP, electromagnetic pulse, and also about the grid and the real state of our grid. And there are some really practical things in what you're saying, in the larger scope of it, that really could happen at any moment. And most of us, we don't have that kind of knowledge and information about EMP or about the state of our grid and how antiquated and stressed our grid is, that we really aren't prepared. And so,
you know who knows is the government knows.
Yes, absolutely.
Those that are probably like your listeners that have taken the time to listen to media like this and to do their research. The majority of the masses are just oblivious. They think the sun will come up tomorrow and everything's going to always be the same. And Mr. Obama is going to keep printing money and everything. We're never going to have that financial crisis, and they're going to be able to go to work and get a paycheck tomorrow. And I don't mean to be political, but that's a very naive view of life. And what they don't realize, and their memories are short, is history does repeat itself. 70 years ago we had World War II, and many think that we're about to have World War III. To say that the most Europeans were living in bunkers 70 years ago to survive, and today they laugh at it. So, EMP is probably the biggest threat that we face. There was a report before Congress a few years ago that indicated that, be it from a nuclear device at a high altitude, or be it a electromagnetic pulse or coronal mass ejection from the sun.
Right.
Which is going into a solar maximum in 2012, 2013.
Yes. Yes.
And many believe we're going to get hit. NASA's made announcements that it's going to be a severe one this time around. And, one coronal mass ejection, solar flare, can ruin your whole day to the extent that it will wipe out our electric grid if it's strong enough. And people say, well, that's never going to happen. I mean, we haven't seen anything like that in our time. And I guess they haven't done their research, because there was a thing called the Carrington event in 1857, I believe, where a solar flare hit Northern Europe, and it took down the internet of its time, which was the telegraph system. And it actually started fires in telegraph offices, as well as it started fence post in the middle of farmers' fields.